On this episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, I welcome Milio sandwich shop owner Scott Mooney to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. Scott joins us to talk about Broken to Brave, an event where real people share real stories of struggle, resilience, and growth. Scott also opens up about his own journey as a business owner, navigating the highs and lows of leadership while working alongside employees facing life's toughest moments. This is a conversation about courage, empathy, and becoming brave together. This will be a good one. Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. What is up wherever you are, whatever you're doing? I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to another episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Decora. We are in the Buck and Honey's remote studios on the east side of our great capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and YouTube at Survive and Thrive 8791. You can follow the podcast and get access to previous episodes on all of those platforms at Survive and Thrive 8791. The podcast. Don't forget to hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you listen to the show. Leave me a comment if you liked what you heard. If there's a topic or a guest who would love to share their story, email me at tdecora@gmail.com. Glad you could join us. Our mission is to share stories and conversations that make you cry, laugh, and think, stimulating emotions, creating laughter, and inspiring the mind. A new episode will air on Monday and Thursday morning featuring a wide range of guests. The podcast will touch on many subjects such as, but not limited to, grief, loss of a loved one, recovery, professional setback, mental illness, success despite challenges, etc. Our guests will share how they learn to survive and thrive. Before I introduce our esteemed guest, to my left, as you look at the screen, some of you, to my right, I'd like to highlight our website, surviveandthrive8791.com. You can see what we are doing and the events we are hosting. If you're a business or an advocate for mental health and recovery, we invite you to partner with us through sponsorship opportunities. Please contact us at surviveandthrive8791@gmail.com. This is our guest and episode intro. According to the internet, and the internet is always right, correct, Scott Mooney?
No, my name is John Smith.
My name is Johnson. That's the first time I have had somebody come on and say...
I guess the internet's not always right.
The internet is not always right. And my wife would 100% agree with that. And I don't need the internet. I don't need ChatGPT. I don't need Alexa. I don't need Siri. I don't need Gemini. I don't need any of that. I got my wife, Sarah, and she's always right.
I also have a wife, Sarah, and she is also always right.
Yes. Happy spouse, happy house, happy wife, happy life. Great things to learn from.
And you didn't have to get that off the internet.
And I didn't have to get that off the internet. Today, I welcome Scott Mooney to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. Scott grew up in Racine, Wisconsin, and attended Park High School and is a proud Panther. After high school, Scott would take his talents into the wild and want to conquer the world. He has done so by owning and operating and working with and for Milio's, a sandwich chain based in Madison, Wisconsin. Today, I'm so glad you could join us. Scott Mooney, what is up?
Thanks for having me.
It is good to be here. It is good to be alive. We're looking outside right now, and there's sun and some snow, and
it can stay outside.
It can stay outside. I sense that you are a person that one day is going to be leaving for a couple of months and heading south.
I love living in Wisconsin. I like 4 seasons, but I tolerate winter.
Mm-hmm. And you said the 4 seasons. I like the 4 seasons too, especially Hollywood. The Hollywood 4 seasons. Speaking of 4 seasons and holidays, how are your holidays? How do you spend your holidays?
Like every other holiday, it feels like, I don't know.
A lot of merriment, a lot of getting together with, house full of friends. You got some relatives. You got some siblings.
I think it's interesting that everybody's perspective is a little bit different, mm-hmm. and it all seems like it's the same thing for everybody. Yeah, we get together, we do this, we do that, and then it's over with. But I think it's also very, everybody's got a unique thing. We spent our Christmas with a lot of my wife's family.
Mm-hmm.
They came from all over not all over the country.
All
we had
parts
some in Florida.
Of the globe.
Yeah. And, it was a good time. We all kind of just hunkered down and did family stuff, and had my brother come to town as well, and we just all kind of hung out and did the usual. Yeah, well, it's nice to have a bunch of family members that you don't hate too. That's
Yeah, I've heard some War of the Worlds when it comes to, the uncle coming to town or the cousins you don't like.
right. And that's the perspectives of the people in that family. That's what their holiday looks like. And that's what it's like every year. So it's like, oh, same old thing. We all say same old thing, but it's everybody's same old thing is a little different.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you get back to Racine then?
I just actually was there yesterday. I probably don't get there as much as I should.
And speaking of Racine, is it Racine or Racine?
I've always said Racine.
Racine.
Yeah.
So that short A. I mean, I've heard of the Racine and Racine, and there's like no in between.
I can't even pronounce the street I live on, so I'm not an expert at anything.
Well, you can go to the internet for that. Speaking of now weather, what has got you fired up about the spring? Because once we start to get into February, there's I get that little itch now of, all right, March is here and then spring is right around the corner.
My spring is getting ready for racing season.
That's right. We've got that common denominator.
Yeah, that's what gets me amped up for the nice weather. So like winter for me, as much as I don't like the winter, it's a good time to kind of recoup and kind of make a new plan for the next year and take a little time off to focus on what the next season's going to look like. I'm still chasing sponsorship right now, so I'm not in a hurry for spring. I still got some time, got some stuff to do. My car's in pretty rough shape. That I got to get that thrown back together. So
maybe we can slap on a Survive and Thrive 8791 sticker somewhere, maybe next to the AMSOIL sticker or the Pennzoil sticker. Get a little sponsorship going.
Absolutely. We've got space for you.
Speaking of racing, we've got the Super Bowl of racing coming up here, the Daytona 500. Have you ever been to the 500?
I have not.
You have not?
I have not.
I know there are some people that are strictly, you got your factions of asphalt, oval, tri-oval. You've got your road racing people. You've got your open wheel, and you've got your dirt and clay people. Where would you tend to find yourself in?
I'm a road racing sports car guy. I love open wheel stuff too. I'm a Formula One fan. IndyCar. 24 Hours of Daytona was just this past weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Which, if I'm going to go to Daytona, that's what I want to do. Our shop is actually was pretty well represented there with Mazda MX-5 Cup. We had 5 different drivers, and 3 or 4 of them were in the top 10 at one point. The high banks shuffled the order around quite a bit, so they were up there, they were back, they were up there. Where they all finished probably wasn't representative of where they were at any given time, but solid team. I get five drivers that could easily win races, so it's a good place to be for them.
How many racers are in? Is there 2 racers per car in the 24 hours of Daytona, or how do they do it? Explain that for our listeners.
So over the course of 24 hours, having one person do that, it would be just
mean-spirited.
Yes, and not to say that it hasn't happened, but that's quite an endurance. The teams usually have either 3 or 4 drivers. And
3 or 4.
They typically do 2-hour stints in the car. Sometimes they'll double stint, and just to save a little bit of time on the pit stop.
And I'm going to be the little 12-year-old kid in everybody. So when they're not driving, do they go to sleep? What do they do? Or do they go and play a round of golf until it's their time to drive?
I think that as much as they want to sleep and they want to be sharp, it's difficult to do it because you're amped up and you want your team to do well. And so you're constantly exploring, how can we make the car faster? How can we make it last longer? What can we do different? And so it's a living and breathing thing. Mm-hmm. The entire 24 hours is analyzing and trying to figure out how to get to be in a better position at the end.
Yeah, the toll the body goes through, with a little bit of G-force in some of the corners, and then stopping and starting, and the wear and tear on the body happens. I would think that there would be a little bit of time to close your eyes in there. You almost have to, just to recharge a little bit. But then, yeah, like you said, you probably train your body for the month ahead, and that you're going to be up for a long time, and it pays off. What is the payoff, speaking of, if you win that race?
It's a pretty prestigious win. Mm-hmm. 24 Hours of Daytona is one of the big ones as far as endurance racing goes. Everybody wants the gold watch. So you get a Rolex Daytona if you win the race. And every driver, so if you got 4 drivers in your car, and there's 4 classes too, so that's, anywhere from 12 to 16 drivers that will have the chance to take home a brand new Daytona Rolex. And it's not something you can buy. So it means a lot to the drivers to take that home. But it means a lot in general because it's a very prestigious win, and it opens a lot of doors for drivers.
So, all right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Before we get to your story, I need to talk about our sponsor. Our sponsor, Buck and Honey's Restaurants, are a place that people can escape to. For me, it's a great escape from cooking dinner. Do you cook dinner? And if so, what's your genre, style, or cuisine?
I can kill a sandwich.
You can kill a sandwich.
It's funny. When I was young, I never thought I would be in a sandwich business, but I was obsessed as a kid with making cool sandwiches.
Bologna?
Oh, no,
okay.
Never. It just never dawned on me back then, but I was always constantly kind of trying to reinvent the wheel and make better sandwiches, and then here we are today. But no, I'm the kind of cook that will look at whatever's in the fridge and try to make something out of it. Doesn't always turn out well. I'm definitely not the cook of the family. My wife is more of the take a recipe from point A to point B and fill in the blanks and come out with something amazing.
Are you usually like the sous chef, and she says, hey, would you slice these onions?
Absolutely.
And slice these green peppers, and then dice these and shave these, and yeah, it's good to be a sous chef. With their great food and drink menu, 5-star customer service, and a welcoming and vibrant atmosphere, people keep coming back with locations in Sun Prairie, Monona, Waunakee, and Mount Horeb, Wisconsin. Most communities in Dane County, which encompasses the Madison metropolitan area, can get to a Buck and Honey's within 10 to 15 minutes. Do a little drum roll here. Very acoustically sound Menards plastic table. Shout out Menards. Have you been to Buck and Honey's?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. You got 4 locations. I know you live in Waunakee. Probably been to Waunakee.
I've got 3 down.
3 down.
I haven't. I made it out to Monona.
Okay. Which is looks high end when you walk in, but then you look at the menu and it's not high end. The food is quality and high end, but the prices are really affordable.
Yeah, it's an absolutely beautiful spot.
And how did you get there? Did you go by car? Because you can take the canal and get there by boat. You can also walk and get there by horseback.
It was definitely not a boating situation. I met some friends there, and I was pleasantly surprised at how nice it was, and I definitely would like to go and spend a little more time there. Just any time you can go out to eat and get the full atmosphere too, it makes a big difference. I think I went to the Sun Prairie one shortly after they opened,
which is the home office.
Yeah, and was pretty happy with the experience there. So I was psyched to see them come to Waunakee, and then some of the staff from one of our other favorite restaurants ended up migrating over to Buck and Honey. So we get to see a few familiar faces when we go there.
Yeah, and then Mount Horeb is not very far from Waunakee. You get there on the back roads in probably 25 minutes. What's really cool about the locations is Tom, the owner, has taken bits and pieces of each and every, right around the area, photos and whatnot, and so they have the vibe of the community behind the restaurant. So it's really cool. Makes it feel a part of the community that they're in. On the podcast, our guests follow the format for sharing their story like this. In segment 1, we talk about what was it like, Scott's history, what happened to get Scott on the podcast. And in segment 2, we continue to talk about what happened and get into what it's like now. And we discuss Scott's 5 suggestions for thriving. You grew up in Racine, Wisconsin, graduating from Park High School, and you're a proud Panther. Tell us about what life was like growing up in Racine.
Just like everything else, it just seemed like a normal life. Mm-hmm. You know, you had the places you go, the areas you hung out in. Moving on later, realizing that Racine has a pretty storied history. I think it has a lot of big city problems with a small town feel. I think there's 100,000 or so people that live there.
Is there much green space anymore, or was there ever any green space between Racine and Kenosha?
Yeah, there was. I'm not really sure how much it's closed up, but it seems like it's nonstop building houses and everything's kind of growing together.
Kind of stretching things out. Were you one of those kids that, first of all, did you live in town?
Yeah.
And then were you one of those kids that, well, you better be home when the street lights come on, or you're not getting any food, or you got kicked outside because, there's really nothing to do inside, so everybody was outside?
Honestly, I don't want to throw an age on myself here, but that's what we did is we went out and did stuff, and usually it probably wasn't always good.
Lawful.
Yeah, I mean, we had to be creative to find stuff to do, but yeah, that's growing up young, or growing up not young but older. When back in the day we didn't have all of this stuff, so we had to come up with ways, and that's I think partly why our generation is so into cars, because cars were our first touch of freedom. And so yeah, we all kind of nerded out about our cars. And
you probably had in Racine, I'm going to guess you probably had a road that was relatively straight and maybe had a little boulevard, and you could go up and then come and turn around and do a little U-turn. Sometimes they call them Detroit turns or Michigan turns, and then go back up and then down around and just parade around down on the main drag. Was there a main drag in Racine that you could do that at?
There was several different places, and there was 3 public high schools, and we all tried to stay away from each other's territory, not to,
All right, so yeah, that's right. Horlick, Case, and Park, right? Okay.
And then there's St. Catherine's as well.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I think we, just to avoid any confrontations, we spend a lot of time. Yeah. I know it's super weird, like it would be that competitive, but it was. We had rivalries, and it's just like, Wanakee and DeForest.
Yeah.
I don't know that they hang out with each other all that often.
But like anything else, afterward, and it's all done, and you end up getting to be friends with some of those folks that you battled against way back in the day.
Absolutely.
Tell us about your family, mom, dad, and then you had an older brother and sister. Spin some yarns about them.
Mom and dad. Mom stayed home and raised us. Dad was, well, by the time I rolled around, I was kind of a...
Whoops.
Yeah, a little bit. So there's 15 years between my sister and I, and 17 between my brother and I.
Oh boy, that's a big gap.
It is. By the time I come rolling around, my brother was eyeing up joining the Air Force, and my sister was trying to move out of the house. She had a boyfriend that she was really into, and they wanted to get their own place. And so it was almost like growing up an only child. They got out of the house fairly early in my life. Yeah,
and they probably almost maybe played a role of like not necessarily an older brother or sister, but like almost a second mom and an uncle. Probably growing up, they spent a little bit of time with you here and there. Yeah,
definitely had a role model type of feel with it, and especially my brother was a drummer as well. So that's kind of a lot of my inspiration came from.
And then you stumbled upon another sibling. Care to share?
Yeah, so that was a weird thing. So my nephew sent me a text message, and hey, did you hear from Ryan? And I'm like, no. What's going on? And he's like, well, you have a half brother. And when I first saw that, I thought, oh my God, my brother was in an accident and lost his legs. I don't know why that was the first thing I thought of. I have a half brother, and I thought he was just being funny. Now he's like, no, we discovered that, through 23andMe, that there was somebody that was closely related to us. And then that opened up a whole can of worms that, considering my mom and dad are no longer with us. Mom passed away, I think I was 31, and my dad passed away when I was 28. And I can't go back and ask questions at this point. So we're kind of trying to put the pieces together and figure everything out. And this whole journey has answered a lot of questions that that kind of hung there. I never really got that opportunity to hang out with my dad and grill him about his life. He was a police officer. He was in World War II in the Navy. There's probably a lot of stories that would have been worth hearing. And I think he told them all to my brother and sister. And then by the time I came around, we just never had those conversations.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm just like you, that when my mom passed away when I was 28 in 1997, she not only passed away, but she also passed away with a lot of answers to questions that I never got to ask her specifically. And then about my grandma and grandpa, and then especially my great-grandmother who raised her. I would have loved to spin some yarns and listen and talk and run a recorder. And it's probably part of the reason why I've also started the podcast, is so that when I am long gone, my grandkids and whatever will have a digital footprint of me, and they can hear some of the stories that I share, and maybe don't always share with them openly, but they'll at least get bits and pieces of there. And I'm writing a book as well, and trying to have that, that another digital footprint out there of what I was all about, because I don't have those people to ask questions to. And yeah, you're not the only one, and I've had several guests sitting in the same chair that have said the same exact thing. You have an amazing wife, high school sweethearts, fellow Panther. Tell us about that. There's a long pause there.
It's a crazy story. We actually first met, I think I was 12 or 13.
And about 6th or 7th grade.
And had a crush on her. And she went to a different school and whatever. It was just it was a chance meeting between a couple of my friends and a few of her friends. We hung out for maybe a month. It wasn't a long thing, and nothing ever really came of it. And then, fast forward to 1988, she shows up at my high school. And my buddy's like, "Hey, you know who that is, right?" And I'm like, "I
can't remember yesterday. You're asking me
right
something from 10 years ago."
Yeah. Then he told me, and then it just all kind of came back. And at that point, it turned out that now she was into me, and so the stars just kind of aligned that way. And
so you had to exchange phone numbers, and you had to get on the phone and get some courage and dial up on the dial phone.
I mean, that's what I did when I was 13 years old. And I had to go through the Fortress of Armor, which was her parents, to get to her. And being in high school together, we just ended up in the same places quite a bit. And we just clicked.
Fate had you guys all chalked up. That's cool. I mean, it's always interesting to hear those high school sweetheart stories. And you've been with Milio's. And it wasn't always Milio's, and you're going to kind of give us a little history here. A sandwich chain based in Madison, Wisconsin. You've been with the company almost since the beginning. What has been that like to see a company grow from one store in Madison, Wisconsin, I think it was on West Johnson, I believe, to give or take 19 franchises throughout Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa? What has that been like to see that, from the beginning to where it is at now, and you're an owner of one of the stores?
Restaurant industry wasn't the first choice necessarily, but I had a little bit of experience from working in Racine, and so it looked like a good program. It looked like a program that valued hard work and loyalty, and that to me, it just felt like a good fit. And so I interviewed. I didn't get the job right away.
Tough interview process, huh?
Well, I had interviewed, and then they
almost like your in-laws.
Yeah, they did blocks of interviews, and they had interviewed a bunch of people. They hired a few people, and then I got pushed off to the next round. And I had a temp job at the time, and I came back and ended up getting the job, and was pretty excited about it because it's like you stick it up for 6 months, it gets better, and you stick it up for a year, it gets even better. And so Mike had a good plan. I don't think he thought it through that somebody like me was going to stick around and take full advantage of it, because next thing you know, I was making more money than a lot of his people. And so it puts a lot of pressure on me to perform, because I don't think they planned for that.
Some people that are listening, and I got a lot of listeners in the south central Wisconsin area, in particular Dane County, but they're going to say, "Mike, wait, was that Big Mike's? because that was a known brand in the Madison area.
Yeah, Big Mike Super Subs.
Big Mike's. So talk about that a little bit, the branding.
His name obviously being Mike, that was his one of his nicknames was Big Mike because he's a big dude, and made sense. Him and his cousin Jimmy John kind of made a little deal like, hey, you want to do this concept? That's great.
Somebody's driving now. Jimmy John's?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And he's like, well, fine, open up in Madison, do your thing. We'll leave you alone. And Mike was like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. And he started opening up stores in Madison. And then he went, you know what, this Big Ten thing, there's a lot of future in Big Ten schools. So he opened in Iowa and really ticked off Jimmy John because that wasn't part of the deal. So there was lawsuits and all sorts of stuff. And so they weren't always on the best terms for the longest time. I think towards the end of their relationship, Mike passed away in 2021. But towards the end of their relationship, I think they were much more amicable. But yeah, so it was a whole thing, and we had to change all the names of the sandwiches and everything because he was kind of doing a piggyback off of Jimmy John's at first.
It's hard not to copy somebody who's got some success.
Yeah, well, I think that's really the key to success. And for anybody out there, don't reinvent the wheel. There are a lot of people that have got it figured out. If you can mimic that and make it your own, it's a lot easier than starting from scratch. He had big eyes at that point. Now that he was kind of broken from I can't leave Madison. He wanted to open up 1 billion franchises, and it didn't go quite as smoothly as he would have hoped. Ran into some stumbling blocks along the way, and we didn't grow nearly at the rate of Jimmy John. So we were more of a regional operation. But we pivoted away from just doing the same thing over and over again and tried different things, tried new menu items, tried to really make it our own.
Evolved.
Yeah.
With time. That's fascinating, and that we're getting a little behind-the-scenes look at two brands that we in the Madison, South Central Wisconsin, and then now Minnesota and Iowa know those names. And that by you telling the story, it brought me back to, Big Mike's. I remember that when I first moved to Madison. So thanks for the history lesson. Because our listeners want to hear the rest of your story and what brought you to the podcast, I need to talk about our sponsor one more time. Buck and Honey's has been with the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew since the beginning with 4 locations in Madison. One is always near. People ask why Buck and Honey's. Owner Tom Anderson places a high priority on the mental health of his employees. He has a mental health professional available for them should they need support. I don't know how many businesses go above and beyond their EAP, Employee Assistance Program, but Buck and Honey's does. Scott Mooney is in the Buck and Honey's remote studios today to talk about being a business owner and what it's like to have so many young people come and go through his life. He's on the front end of many young people's professional lives. He wants to share his story of the good and also not so good that can occur when those young people experience hard times after their time working for Scott. You'll hear about that and the work he is doing now. Please stay tuned. Don't change that channel. You're not going to want to miss segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. We will be back.
If you, a loved one, or someone you know is experiencing a physical, mental, or emotional crisis, there is help and resources out there. Contact NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness Helpline, at 1-800-950-6264. This is a free service providing information, resource referrals, and support to people living with a mental illness, their family, providers, and the public. United Way 211 is available 24/7, 365, and offers free confidential assistance. They connect people with the local programs and services that can help. Dial 211. Emergency Crisis Services, dial 911. The Suicide Prevention Lifeline, dial 988. To connect via web, chat, visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Along with those numbers, there is help. You just need to say 3 words. I need help. Now, back to the show.
We are back. Welcome back to segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Tim DeCora. We are in the Buck and Honey's remote studios on the east side of our great capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. The podcast is where we feature guests who share their story in hopes of helping others who may be struggling with what life throws at them. Today, I'm glad to be joined in the Buck and Honey's remote studios by Scott Mooney. He is here to talk about how he struggled at times dealing with the struggles of his former employees and what they have gone through in their lives. He's here to share his story and bring awareness to the struggles employers may or may experience at a low or high level when former employees struggle in life. After many years with Milio's, Big Mike's as well, you decide to buy a location in Waunakee, a booming town just north of Madison, the capital city in Wisconsin. Let's talk about the sandwich shop. Explain what Milio's is all about and your location and how comes and whys, and just, here's a chance for you to promote your place.
All right, awesome. We used to be inside of a gas station for the longest time, and as Waunakee was growing, roundabouts became all the rage for a while there. So we got a nice little roundabout right in the center of town, and the downside was it affected the business that we were in. And so that meant we had to start looking for our own place. This was back in 2013, and that's how we ended up in the location we're in now. Former bank, it was sitting there vacant for quite a while, already had a drive-through. It really checked off a lot of boxes. So we made the move over there, and immediately I felt like that would be the best time to transition from being a corporate guy to an owner. And I'm very happy we did that. It took a while to get the deal closed. It was May 4th, 2015 that we finally took over officially. But yeah, it's been a great thing.
So somebody driving along might be asking the simple question, what is the difference between the corporate world and then owning your own shop? My guess is that you get to make your own hours and set things the way you want it, and then you're kind of following maybe a project or process with corporate. Does it go deeper than that? It's a franchisee, you really have to stay on brand. There are a lot of little things that go along with that, so you can't stray too far from things. Our menu is going to be the same as everybody else's menu, for instance. However, how I compensate or how I manage, there's a lot of things that I can do that I have a little more autonomy with. And I always had a lot of philosophies that I tried to incorporate into my management when I was working for corporate that didn't always go over very well. I was always focused on making sure we had good people and maybe a little more labor than was ideal for the numbers to make sure that we could continually provide a guest experience. And, when you're in a restaurant and you're short-staffed, as hard as you try, it is very difficult to do a really good job because you are fighting fires the entire time. And it's a high-stress environment, and, people burn out. It's very difficult that way. So I always tried to stay a little bit ahead of it and make sure that I was keeping my good people in the places where they'd be the most valuable. And that meant spending a little more on labor, and I got a lot of criticism for that. So that was one of the things that when I was able to do it on my own, it was my dime now, and I was perfectly okay with that because I knew that the results would be better sales, which would eventually pay for that, just an investment into the customer experience instead of worrying about the numbers all the time. So if you take care of people, the numbers will work themselves out. Yeah, I've heard that several times from different other corporate people and business owners that, you take care of the ones that are, taking care. I had a conversation with Mr. Culver, and I think it was last May, and, it's one thing to keep your customers happy. You got to keep the people happy that are serving the customers as well, if not maybe more. They're on the front lines, and I thought that was probably not a unique look at the restaurant business, but it made me go, wow, that's 100% right. And probably not a lot of people do it that way and have a reason why.
Yeah, it's a constant conflict because you're always in between how much you want to spend and keep your bottom line in check, but also it costs a lot of money to retrain people or bring in new people. And if you can, for instance, this is a battle I always had in corporate. I had somebody that worked for me that needed 30 to 35 hours to survive, to get his goals. And in order to do that, that meant we had to overlap him in places where it wasn't always financially efficient, but it was worth it because we met his goals for him and he stayed. And he was a very valuable guy, and he's still, he owns several businesses now. He's just one of the success stories. And you know, there are a lot of them out there. There are a lot of kids that I see now and I'm just like blown away. How awesome. And then there's other ones that when I worked with them, I knew they were going to be great.
That's a great business plan to probably look into if somebody wants to get into the sandwich business. I mean, there's a lot of sandwich shops. You've got Subway, you've got Jimmy John's, you've got Milio's, you've got
Cousins,
Cousin Subs.
There's Jersey Mike's.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot, and then there's your small town places that are the independents that aren't in the chain business, but yeah, definitely a good plan because they've been around since the late 80s. Let's talk about the people then, because that's essentially what you and I chatted about on the phone a couple of weeks ago, setting up this and what can we talk about. You're going to be talking about an event called Broken to Brave, put on by the Wanakee Project Brave. So we're going to give a little teaser right now. We're going to come back to that in a little bit. But the other reason that you're here is to talk about what life is like when, you know, you could probably spin yarns about the kids that have worked for you and have gone on and now are maybe, you know, in the business world or doctors or, you know, mechanics or whatever and are doing really, really well. But you just don't connect with those kids. You connect, and I heard you say the word loyalty earlier, and you also connect with the kids that come from maybe a rough home situation, or maybe they're not even living at home and they're still going to high school, and kind of everything in between. And you're just as loyal to those kids as well. How many employees have you had roughly since you've opened the doors? Are we talking hundreds of kids? You know, what are the numbers like?
I couldn't tell you. We have been very blessed to have people that stay with us for a long time. Mm-hmm. And so the turnover in the restaurant industry is typically pretty high, somewhere in the 100% neighborhood that you turn over your entire staff annually. Mm-hmm. We've had kids high schoolers that start with us when they're 16 and stay with us through college. We have actually one of my managers right now, her daughter is about to turn 16.
And she's gearing up to work at Milio's.
She's on deck. She's, you know, she had a few struggles and had, you know, like had a weird accident. She's had a year, but I think all of that has kind of got her focused on the future again. Like she's had a renewed spirit, and there's a pretty good chance that she might be coming our way at some point.
Everybody kind of follows in line, but that's probably because of the relationships that your parents or your brothers or sisters have had with the business owner, and they feel, well, yeah, you were great. Your relation, your kin has got to be great. Yeah, send them in, and you build that relationship not only just with one employee but the whole family. Let's talk about some of the things that kind of you said bothered you a little bit, even made you to a point of you feel sad about that. There are some high points and some low points. We'll start with the low points, and then we'll come back to the high points of some of your employees that have struggled. So in general terms, what has happened with some of your employees that started with you as a 16-year-old and then now 10 years later, or a little bit older, they're closing in on their 30s. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, to go back, when talking about my manager's daughter, the relevance there is that she was pregnant with her shortly after she started with me. She's been around a long time, and our whole management team has been maybe six years is the shortest. One of them used to be a customer when she was a Wanakee High School student. And her best friend still comes into this day. And I don't know, the mother went through a hard time. In 16 years, you're going to have a hard time at some point. It just is what it is. I made the choice to stand by her while she worked through it. And it probably took a year and a half. I am very glad that I did because she's amazing. That is just something that happens in life, is sometimes things don't go the way you plan. Something comes along, and she really was hitting rock bottom. And it was a tough time, and it was, again, totally worth it to come on the other side, because this is a situation where she could be no longer with us if she would have kept heading down that path. So having had to deal with that multiple times, at the time not realizing, some people are pretty easy to see that when they're struggling. Some people hide it very well. And those are typically the ones that are no longer with us. They don't get help because they don't ask for help. They don't look like they need help. They seem like they have their stuff together. And then one day you get a phone call and you ask a lot of questions. Having had that happen multiple times, we've had suicides, we've had overdoses, somebody got killed by a drunk driver. You get a little hypersensitive to changes in behavior. You have to pay attention a little bit closer. Having the pain of attending a funeral of a 18-year-old kid is not anything you want to relive. And I've had to be at way too many funerals, and I don't want to be at any more of them. So I've really been focused on making sure that I'm staying connected, checking on them, and just making sure that they're doing okay. And if they're not okay, if I can help them in any way. I don't think people really realize how important it is to keep that connection alive in a world, especially now that people are becoming more and more disconnected because of technology. People really have a tough time looking at somebody in the eyes like we're looking right now and having a conversation. Our young people, especially the ones that grew up having to deal with the whole COVID thing and being locked in a house for a year, anxieties you didn't think you were ever going to have to deal with, stuff that didn't bother you before, they do now because you spent an entire year not talking to people. I think you saw a lot of people not rejoin the workforce because they just couldn't leave their house. Depression, whatever.
You talk about going and attending funerals, and you get phone calls that aren't the most pleasant, and it'd be real easy to just turn that off and feel bad for a little bit. But I think because of the loyalty of some of these people that work for you are former customers, and then now they see, hey, help wanted, and they sign up and whatever, and they work for you from 16 to most kids, if they go to a 4-year college, are graduating at 22, so they're with you for 6 years, good and bad and everything in between, and you can't help but get connected with, making a connection with those kids and those people, and when they go through hard times. How are you able to, what do you do to cope with that? Do you, there's all kinds of things that people do. They meditate, they read, they go on vacations, they go for walks. What does Scott Mooney do to, when you get that phone call, you've got to sit with that for at least for an hour or two. What do you do in that time when you hang up that phone?
I guess it's different every time. Getting that phone call is it just changes everything. What I do in the moment is just try to cope with it, but in the long term is to try to figure out where I could have gone wrong. If there's something I could have done, if something I didn't notice, I just replay the whole thing. I mean, if you hit yourself in the toe with a hammer and it hurt, you wouldn't go back the next day and do it again. I have to analyze everything, probably overanalyze everything, to make sure that there wasn't something I missed along the way. And that's where we're at now, is that I'm really trying to be more aware of everything that's going on and changes. One of the kids, the week before he took his life, was probably the most outgoing and spirited we'd ever seen him. And that should have been a red flag because he was kind of an introvert. He didn't say a lot. He was a smart guy. He was a fun guy, but he wasn't the kind of person that would, stand at the front of the room and direct the party. He was more of somebody that would be in the background enjoying the party. That weekend that he was working, he was engaging with everybody. He was hugging everybody. There was just a different vibe from him. And we all talked about it. It's like, wow, man, I've never seen him like that before. And then a week later, we lost him. And stuff like that, you have to pay attention to. Normally, you just focus on the bad changes when somebody else just stops talking or whatever. This is the opposite. This is somebody who just came alive for a week or for a weekend and behaved in a way that we didn't see, or I guess we were like, wow, that was great. Can't wait to work with him next time.
I can see where you would go back and look at the process of where did I go wrong? Where did we go wrong? And dealing with our employees. And that probably goes along with your business plan and then the business you're in. You're putting pieces together to make an end product. And I really think that's a valuable coping skill to look at what happened and then find some way to move on. Who do you then lean on for support when now you're an hour or two or you're leaving work for the day and you're heading home? Is there somebody you call on the way? You got your wife at home. Talk about the people you lean on.
I have different friends I call for different situations, but ultimately my wife and I both own businesses. And so a lot of our experiences are similar. She's a great person to bounce stuff off of, and she is happy to bounce stuff off of me. And we're a good support system for each other.
You both get each other because you've walked similar paths in the business world.
And we spend a long time with each other.
And you spend a long time with each other. Let's talk about some of just a couple of success stories.
There were so many of them that I knew early on that they were going to be successful in anything they did. And so, there's people in the medical fields, there's business owners, teachers, they're all over the place. Really the big success stories I look at are, for instance, the person I was talking about earlier that we lost, there was a massive friend group that had passed through our location, and he was part of that. And so looking back at a lot of those folks and seeing how they're doing now, because that was a mixed bag too. And not all of them dealt with it very well, and some of them coped, and I think they still think about it every day, but they're also overcoming and moving on with their lives. Yeah, without, not bringing up anybody specifically, but just there's a big group of people that have worked hard to move on with their lives and try to make the most out of it, and there's some that are still struggling with it. And I definitely should check on them more than I do. Same with, going to see my brother and sister. I should probably do that a little bit more too. We get caught up in our work life sometimes and don't spend the quality time in other areas that maybe we should. I think that's a big part of the business thing too, is the work-life balance. And sometimes work takes over. So it's important to make time to do those things. And so I remind myself every day of those things and try to keep those conversations alive.
I think one of the things I'm gonna just dive in here quick because I had a thought is that when people come on and tell their story, there's probably a handful of people that are getting something out of this. Oftentimes, what I've seen is the guest gets something out of this because they do what you did and you verbalized it. You have maybe an aha moment that I need to see my brother and sister a little more. And I need to get a little more balance in my work life, family and home life and work life. And ultimately, I think, in addition to the listeners, the guests have something that they can come out of here with and maybe do a little refocus. And that's not the gist of it, but when I get to see it and hear it, and you just verbalized it, and I saw you kind of take a little smile when you started talking about your brother and sister, that's a powerful moment.
I think talking about anything, and that's why therapy is important. You don't realize what is truly eating at you until you start talking about things. And then you do have those aha moments. You think, oh, wow, that makes perfect sense now. But at the moment, you're just so buried in it, in your own head, that you don't see it. So for anybody out there that's struggling with, I feel like I'm alone. I don't know how to deal with this or whatever. There are places that you can just talk to somebody and just spill it. Mm-hmm. And they're completely impartial. And they're going to listen to what you're going through and maybe help you try to navigate it a little bit. BetterHelp is one of our partners with Project Brave. Mm. And you can go onto the website for Project Brave, and there's a link down there, and you can get a free month of therapy through BetterHelp.
I like that.
And that's the easy button. You don't have to think about the financial part. All you got to do is think. All I got to do is be brave enough to take that step and talk to somebody. And I think more people could benefit from that.
I know one of the things that has really helped me is the more time I share my story, and I share it a lot, probably a couple of times daily, and then weekends when I get more time out there. The more times I share my story, the more times I run into people that have traveled the same path, and we're exchanging numbers and phone calls. Once in a while they become a guest on the podcast, but there are a lot of people out there that are traveling the same, and they just need to know somebody else who is. And then that bond occurs, and well, what do you do, and how do you cope with that? And I end up getting these tools that I either use in my own life or pass them on because they were just passed on to me freely, and it comes from opening up. Let's talk about what you are doing now. You've been part of an annual event called Broken to Brave, and that's sponsored by our good friend Carrie Kane and Wanakee Project Brave. This event takes place this year on February 15th from 2 to 4 p.m., so it's not going to eat up a chunk of time on a Sunday, at the Northridge Church in Wanakee, Wisconsin. Tell us about the event.
Well, we're super excited to go to the Northridge Church. They just built a brand new church, and they've been supporters since day one. And they're generously offering us their space. They put in some state-of-the-art sound equipment in there, and it's truly a beautiful space for this, and it's perfect for what we're doing. Yeah, we can't thank them enough for that. The event is basically designed to take people's stories and get them out there so that people realize they're not alone with some of this stuff. And especially when you see somebody you know that's a prominent person, and they tell you stuff that you didn't know that they've had to overcome to get to where they are, it gives people a glimmer of hope to know that you can be in a bad place and still be in a great place later. You just got to figure it out. And we're trying to help people figure that out. And then we put it together with music, because I think music is what people fall back on when they're having a tough time. They put on their favorite band and they just listen for a while, and it kind of helps them deal with their emotions. So the combination of the storytelling and the experiences, the resources to get people help, and the music all together makes for a quick 2 hours.
Yeah, having been a participant and cheeks and seats last year, I have developed some relationships, and you're one of them, that cross paths and was at the event when I was in Wanakee a couple of years ago and told my story, and again kind of had some people come up, are you writing a book on this, and can you come and speak to our group? And so I made some connections, and some relationships and friendships have come out of that. You're right, when people, hey, I was just like you, different story, different community, but grew up exactly like you, and there's that like hook. What is the theme this year? Carrie Kane, the organizer, tries to do a little theme each year. Let's talk about the theme.
Well, this one's for the fellas. The guys are the ones that tend to just pack all their stuff down and not bring it up.
Suppress.
Exactly. So we've got a panel of people that are going to open up and talk a little bit, similar to the way you did. And I can't thank you enough for your time with us, because that was a very powerful moment. Being able to see people that are at the top of their game now, that were by far at the bottom of their game at some point in their life and had to get through it, is extremely inspiring for people who think that they're alone and this is just something that I'm going through. It's not. Everybody's going through it. It doesn't have to be the exact same thing or the exact same reasons, but there's always challenges that people have to deal with and have to overcome to get to their better self. So this one, we've got mostly men that are talking, but we have some of the women behind the men. And as I can attest, it's very important to have a good person on your team. And I wouldn't be anywhere near here without my wife. We also have a special guest, and if you are into basketball, UW, you're not going to want to miss this.
Amazing story of what could have happened, and you can think of all the bad things that could have happened, but then seeing all of the great things that have happened with this individual. And I've read bits and pieces of his story, and you'll be amazed at what has happened and where he's come from and where he's at now, and everything in between has been amazing, but had to overcome, and he's going to have a great story and share some of those coping strategies. And just because it's for the fellas, there's a lot of women out there that should attend because their fella in their life is not attending, and they can hear those powerful stories and maybe take some of those coping strategies back to use that fella in their life, whether it's a spouse, brother, relative, child, son, parent. They can use some of the strategies that they pick up and also some of the resources. So speaking of some of the resources, I know you dropped a group in there, but if somebody wants to get involved that has, some funds or some volunteer, where would they go to get on board and want to sign up and help? Where do they go?
Our website is wannabebrave.com, and we've got several links on there. One of them is to Give Butter, which is a donation site. You can donate directly through there, and we'll always happily take a check if somebody shows up with a check or whatever, but you can sign up for the event on there as well. And we have links to a lot of different resources, especially in the Madison area, Dane County, that you can go to, as well as our BetterHelp link.
And sometimes when there's events like this, they're thinking, okay, this is always typically like a fundraiser or giving event or fundraising. And what's this going to cost me to go? And that it's the best price in the world.
It is. It's the second best price. The best price is the one where they pay you to be there. This one is free.
And the only problem with something being free the last few years, especially maybe when I was talking, but it sells out because there's only a certain number of seats in these the event venues that they've been in, and they've really sold out the last couple of years. Of there's enough, you just can't give 1,000 tickets out, and there's only 200 seats. Get signed up, get your tickets. It'll be a great event. February 15th, Northridge Church, Waunakee, Wisconsin, from 2 to 4 p.m. It'll be a great event. This is where the subscribers, followers, and listeners take out the notebooks, pens, and pencils and jot some things down. Here are Scott Mooney's 5 suggestions that have helped him survive and thrive as a business owner when things don't go well for his employees. And here's what you shared. I'm going to have you hit these in about 60 seconds or less. And I'm going to ask you a question. Can you hit a softball?
Can I hit a softball?
Yeah.
I can hit a softball.
Oh, I like that. I can hit a softball. I saw the determination in there. So I'm going to toss these in underhand softball style, and I'm going to have you hit these in 60 seconds or less and talk about it a little bit, and then we'll go through all 5. Okay, and here's what you shared. Number 1, invest in your team the knowledge and compassion for them to succeed.
I think winning is great. I love it when things go well, but I actually enjoy it more to see other people having those moments where the hard work that they put in truly makes a difference for them, and they achieve a goal that maybe seemed out of reach for them. And so anything you can do to help encourage, help give them the tools and skills to reach that goal, I promise you, seeing it happen will feel as good as anything.
Love it. Number 2, take time for yourself. Go ahead and hit that.
Back to the work-life balance thing. You have to have a thing that you can turn to focus on your interests and what you love. And for me, that's a lot of times strapping on the helmet and going out there and driving. Everything else in the world kind of melts away when I'm out there in the car. And it's one of the few times in my life where I'm not connected to whatever's going on. you have to find that for yourself. Find your happy place.
Number 3, set realistic goals and work at them relentlessly. Go ahead and hit that.
I think, and I'm as guilty of this as anybody, that I have these huge lofty goals, and it's very difficult to see them coming to fruition. So you really have to build to those goals. Set the realistic ones, break it down into small pieces, and tackle those. And you'll eventually get to the big goal. Work at each one of those things. You have to have a plan. Just kind of like when you buy a business, or if you start a business, you got to have a business plan. If you have goals, you need a breakdown and a plan to get there. And I also promise you, it is 100% worth it, putting the effort in.
Number 4, don't get complacent. Go ahead and hit that.
I was talking about this with my team last night because we had a big transition that went from 2021 to now. The world changed. The world changed in 2020. Things aren't the same as they were before, and we have to sharpen the saw and work on a different set of skills than we needed back then. That's been a big topic on our team. It's easy to fall into a routine and just kind of do the thing. And once in a while, you got to step back and go, is the thing working? Is this still a thing that is getting us the best results? And if it's not, pivot, figure out something, get creative, but always grow. Always try to learn.
I think we mentioned the word evolve earlier. Keep evolving and transitioning to new and better things. And last one, number 5, focus on doing a few things well. Less is more. So being mediocre at several things is a recipe for failure. Go ahead and hit that.
I think a lot of, especially in business, when things aren't going perfectly, they go, oh, we need a cool lemonade or something. And it's not always having something new to focus on. It's maybe putting the effort into doing what you're doing better and be unique in that you're focused on something that you're doing better than other people. And that will get you the attention you're looking for. There are people that are people in businesses that are famous for one or two things. I promise you they worked hard to get there. And focusing on doing those things extremely well is going to be a win.
I love it. What an episode. I'm so glad you could join the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew today. Your approach to life and how you manage to stay strong in life when, as a business owner, dealing with the ups and downs of former employees has been inspiring. You're bringing awareness to business owners everywhere who care about their employees, not only when they are working for you, but after they have moved on. Our call to action. Scott Mooney just shared his story and how he has been affected by the ups and downs of former employees and current employees. He wanted to share his story and bring awareness to other struggles that business owners might face. Here are Scott Mooney's 5 suggestions to survive and thrive. Number 1, invest in your team, the knowledge and compassion for them to succeed. Number 2, take time for yourself. Number 3, set realistic goals and work at them relentlessly. Number 4, don't get complacent. And number 5, focus on doing a few things well. Less is more. So being mediocre at several things is a recipe for failure. Final thoughts as we close another great episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. Are there any final thoughts? Scott Mooney.
Well, big shout out to Carrie Kane, because this relationship is largely due to her.
Due to her, she's at the top of the triangle. We're in the corners, and now we've connected on the bottom.
Absolutely. And the entire Project Brave team, they do it for nothing, and they work hard at it. Truly make a difference in what they do. Every year, we're always blown away by how awesome it turns out in the end. And that is all due to all of the work that gets done behind the scenes. So big shout out to our board and all of our volunteers. And
February 15th.
February 15th.
Northridge Church, Wanakee, Wisconsin, 2 to 4 p.m. Tickets are free, but you got to get them.
Got to get them. Get signed up.
Get signed up. On our next episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, we will have another amazing guest in the Buck and Honey's remote studios who will share how they learn to survive and thrive. If you have a story to share or you know someone who does, please reach out to me at tdecora@gmail.com. Until next time, hang in there with whatever you happen to be going through, and with hard work, dedication, and determination, you can survive and thrive. Until next time, take care.